Hey, back with week 2. It's week 2. Check out the beat. Week 2. I feel like a chatty mess today, so this video might be a little um as all the videos have been. Anyway, week 2, recovering a sense of identity. I love that. I love that. I love that. So this week's chapter was really about confronting things that make us doubt ourselves as creatives. But specifically, she named crazy makers, which are people who kind of just, in my perspective, it's like people who kind of make it hard for you to like really self-actualize. And I think this chapter really made me think about the moments where, like, the times where I felt very creatively confident and energized, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna do this project, I'm gonna get my ish together. And I would have a friend that's like, I really want to see you succeed, but X, Y, and Z and X, Y, and Z. And I remember, like, I had a fallout with a friend about this because I wanted, like, we typically had a, like, creative relationship and we would help each other with our creative projects. And I wanted her to help me, I think, like, just like dance or something. And I like slept through my alarm and I was just like, sorry. And that like turned into a whole thing of like, whatever. It was a very complicated time, but you know what I mean? But but then I remember the conversation going something like, "Hey, I really want to see you succeed," and da 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 da. And it was just like, do you want to see me succeed if like you're gonna hold me like sleeping through my alarm one time after I've helped you with multiple creative projects? If you're gonna hold that against me and no longer help me, like, crazy maker. That is what I think crazy makers are. Like people who, and it's in the book, people who suddenly have like a problem when you're trying to get your ducks in a row, or people who like really try to make it seem like you can't have the things that you want, or you can't have your cake and eat it too. Because you know what? You can. You can have your cake and eat it too, as long as you follow a lot of the advice in this book. There's some good things in this week. And another thing in this chapter was talking about just our inner skepticism, our inner critic, as RuPaul would say, or inner saboteur. And I think that when you really look at those things, like the crazy makers and the skepticism, and, start pulling it away, pulling it out of yourself, then yeah, you get to see more of your identity. So a really cool exercise from this week was, first thing in the morning, you get up and you read the basic principles. And I love the basic principles because she's connecting your purpose as a creative to God's purpose for you, and just saying plainly, this is the truth. We are creations, therefore we should create. And it just boils down creativity to the simplest of truths. And I feel like the first day that I woke up and immediately read the basic principles was probably when it was the most powerful for me. I feel like I almost shed tears because I was just like waking up being like, wow, like I'm a creation and I'm here to create. Like that's how I felt. Like um, it was spiritual for sure. And I think I really enjoyed getting up and reading these principles and then starting my morning pages. And I feel like right now is a good time to note that in the first coming weeks, I have given myself a lot of leeway not to be super perfectionist about this. I think that should just be a warning on this book. Like, don't be a perfectionist about this. Like, I am not really going like week by week, especially now that I'm making these videos. I'm using these videos and prioritizing these videos for my consistency. But when it comes to like my book work behind the scenes, I'm really giving myself a lot of leeway, mostly because I have so many other things that I gotta do sometimes. But this is one thing I'm being consistent with. So shout out to me. And then, yeah, so that was this week's reading. That was an assignment, the first assignment that you had to do, the basic principles every morning. And then my artist date, which I'm deciding this was my artist date for this week, I went to Black Tech Camp. And I like my artist dates not to be like solo, mostly because I'm ultimately not a solo artist. I think a lot of my art will come together in collaboration. And I do have solo art practices, but I really look at myself as like a collaborative artist more than like anything. And so I went to this workshop called Black Tech Camp at Performance Space, New York. It was super, super, super cool. And it was basically a space just for Black people who were interested in technical theater to learn some technical theater basics. We learned some theater carpentry basics. We learned some theater lighting basics, and we learned some theater audio visual tech troubleshooting basics. And even though I was in a room full of people, I was really in there focused on myself and focused on me just bringing my full artist to that space and like making sure I was downloading information for the future. Even though like I studied theater, that refresher was really, really needed. I think my theater education was very broad and like, most jobs like that, theater technical jobs, you learn by doing, you learn by experience. So that was my date. And I want to go through some of the answers to some of the assignments we did. Yeah. I think, the basic principle readings was the most powerful thing for me. It really addressed my skepticism of, I think one big skepticism I had was just like, and this is something, a word that I learned from a resource that I mentioned in the last video, Ghost of a Podcast. She talked about how the Virgo energy in the space can really make things feel demoralizing. You can like fall into a pattern of demoralization, which is basically like, if I can't do things perfectly, what's the point of doing them? Okay. And that brings me to the reading of chapter. See, I told you today was going to be chatty messy. Of week 2, there is another set of like, she has these like gray paragraphs in the book that like usually are like affirmations, rules, really good, strong sentences that we should repeat to ourselves, the rules of the road. And one of the rules, the last rule is place a sign in my workplace. Great creator, I will take care of the quantity, you take care of the quality. And how that connects to my skepticism is like, I would just be like, okay, if I can't do it perfectly. I don't want to do it at all. And that gets you into this demoralizing mindset of what's the point of anything? What's the point of being creative? Why do I even deserve this? Why am I even here doing this? And then like I've never thought about, I always thought quality over quantity, and I would just really obsess over the quality of my work and the quality that I would put out, to the point where even if I had made something with no money, I'm like, this isn't the good shit. No, delete it, take it down. Like, even here on my YouTube, I've put up and taken down like a bunch of things. And I was just like, oh, like this is such a mental shift perspective. Like, I just need to worry about creating and putting it out there. And like eventually my creator will take up my quality, to the quality of my dreams. I dream of making things obviously to the highest quality. But there's qualities in between that and the purpose of the work. And ultimately, I don't have to worry about the quality, right? If I worry about the quantity, the quality will come. Beautiful. Love it. Chef's kiss. Okay. The rules of the road was definitely, oh, and another really important section of this week's reading was attention. She was talking about attention being kind of like the most important tool you have, to surviving as a creative, to holding on to your sanity as a creative. And I think that is so true. Because when I think about the time that I was most blocked and most stifled as an artist, it was when I was like, I'm just gonna surrender. Like, I thought I was surrendering. I thought I was just allowing things to unfold that the way they should, but really I just decided to stop paying attention to the long-term effects of my habits and practices. And I called that surrendering. And I feel like it put me in to like the darkest place I've ever been, especially as a creative. I was in that demoralizing mind loop of, what is the point? What is the point? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And I was in that loop for like years. I want to say like at least 2 years. And it was tough, because I was just like, I don't know what to do other than just keep doing what's in front of me. But none of that was actually what was deeply fulfilling to me as an artist. So, she has a lot of gems in here about attention just being a gift and using that correctly, and using that, as one of your main tools. And I think that really shifted my perspective on the way I was using that. And like, it made me retrospectively realize, oh, this is what I was doing wrong, and that's what I should not do again. And yeah, rules of the road are great. These are great. Y'all gotta get this book. Okay. Hopefully you already have it if you're watching this, and we can, get into it. And yeah, on the subject of attention, the other activities were really, the other tasks were about outlining where you spend your time and what you spend your time doing. And, I spend a lot of my time working, or like working out, or like thinking, cleaning, or getting ready. I feel like I've shifted my attention from just surrendering to preparing, because I felt so unprepared, after those years of just like being demoralized. Now I'm like really obsessing over my preparedness. And I realize I spend a lot of time preparing, which isn't good or bad. It's just the phase that I'm in. And what's good is that there's also an exercise that makes you outline all the things that you enjoy doing. And I enjoy preparation. Stay ready, you never have to get ready. You know what I mean? So one exercise is outlining all the things that you enjoy doing and then writing the date in which you did them last. And, you know, we're in 2025 and I do have some 2024, 2023 dates on here, but a lot of them were 2025. So I was proud of myself. In general, this book is making me feel proud of myself because I've been doing a lot of the things that she has in it. So happy about that. And I've been really leaning in towards things that bring me joy, okay? And I'm about to get into those things some more. All right. Recorded this. I think this week is really about analyzing what you do on a daily basis, and that also makes up your identity. And I think that ties into the whole recovering a sense of identity. Once you know who you are, you know what you like, you know what you're into, and you're paying attention to yourself, you know, it's going to jump out. Your identity is going to jump out more. And I just want to read like the week 2 opening line because I think this will be a good way to wrap up this video. This week addresses self-definition as a major component of creative recovery. You may find yourself drawing new boundaries, staking out new territories as your personal needs, desires, and interests announce themselves. This essays and tools are aimed at moving into your personal identity, a self-defined you. And why that is so important to me this week is because as I was reading these basic principles, as I was paying attention to all of the activities that I like to do and where I like to spend my time, you know, the ideas were jumping into my head. And I was like, oh, wow, I want to do this and I want to do that. I want to do this and I want to do that. And I knew I wanted to do those things, but I guess I didn't really pay attention to me knowing wanting to do those things, if that makes sense. And I think one big discovery for me was I used to always tell myself, don't be one of those writer, director, actors that's so corny, that's this, that's that, focus on directing. You're a director. But as I was paying attention more to myself, I realized that wasn't 100% true. I'm like, some of my first instances of directing, I either wrote it and directed it, or I directed it and I was in it. Like I mentioned in my previous video, like one of the first plays I put on for the general public was a play that I wrote, directed, and acted in. And I think that when I think about my goals and when I think about the things that I really want to accomplish and what I want those things to look like, I do see myself like front and center. And I think that me telling myself that it would be corny was just skepticism of believing that I didn't deserve to be in that space of all that creativity. So, to just wrap it up, it's like, okay, these exercises brought me back to my original identity, which I have been, you know, running away from for some time now. And I'm like, oh, wow, it was like right here. And, I think these exercises really like open up your mind so you're able to accept yourself more radically and just be like, this is what's coming up for me, so that's what I'm gonna do. And this is definitely seeping in other parts of my life. Like, I get an idea, I'm starting to feel claustrophobic. I want to move. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'm like, why fight it? It is what it is. Like, that's what I would like to do. And then you realize, oh, following that is going to lead me to my divinity. It's going to lead me closer to God, with God. It's going to bring me to a higher level of understanding of myself. Therefore, the quality of my work will naturally like alongside me, if that makes sense. You know, and if it doesn't, that means you gotta go on your own journey. Boom, boom, boom. Thanks for watching. Week 2, smashed it.